This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
U.S. Congress certifies Joe Biden's win as Trump pledges orderly transition. Chinese foreign minister in Botswana as Africa tour continues. And at least 3 killed as boat capsizes in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hello and thank you for joining us on Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe. Let's have a look at the stories coming up this hour. Nigeria's state oil firm seeks $1 billion to refurbish its largest refining complex. And in sport, we'll look back at Egypt's glorious football achievements in 2020 and what to expect in the new year. U.S. President Donald Trump has pledged an orderly transition after lawmakers certified the results from November's presidential elections. The act of Congress formally clears the way for Joe Biden to succeed Donald Trump as the 46th U.S. president on January 20th. The joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate reconvened after being interrupted as Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building. The violence happened after Trump urged followers gathering outside the Capitol ahead of Congress's vote to stop the steal. Scenes of chaos have unfolded in the U.S. after supporters of President Donald Trump stormed the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Protesters had gathered outside of where Congress meets over a vote that would certify Joe Biden the winner of presidential elections. Police say 4 are dead and dozens have been arrested due to the demonstrations. Timothy Ulrich reports.
Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about.
Trump's message to his followers to demand they overturn November election results. He's been claiming for over 2 months the vote was rigged and he won in a landslide. Outraged Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building Wednesday afternoon, just right after he urged them to fight. U.S. lawmakers were in a joint session of Congress rubber stamping election results.
They broke the glass?
They were forced to take shelter as Trump supporters made their way into the building. Members of Congress were also told to put on gas masks and eventually evacuate once the situation spiraled out of control. Capitol Police shot one protester who entered the building. She later died in the hospital. President-elect Joe Biden denounced the siege, calling on Trump to do the same.
What we're seeing are a small number of extremists dedicated to lawlessness. This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition. And it must end now.
Trump posted a video on social media telling the protesters to leave, but maintained the elections were rigged.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
The video was pulled by Facebook and YouTube, but remained on Twitter. Users were not able to reply or retweet the video, and it was flagged as making disputed claims. Trump's app of choice later locked his account for 12 hours, saying he had violated Twitter's terms of service. Social media sites were under pressure to take action against the president over claims he incited violence. Back at the Capitol, police said they secured the building hours after it was stormed, and Congress was allowed to reconvene. Senate Majority Leader and Republican Mitch McConnell, as well as Vice President Mike Pence, denounced the actions of Trump supporters.
To those who wreaked havoc in our Capitol today, you did not win. Violence never wins. Freedom wins. And this is still the people's house.
The siege cost more than Congress's time. At least 3 White House officials resigned in response to the violence, including First Lady Melania Trump's chief of staff, Stephanie Grisham. On top of that, the incident calls into question if this will be the last act of violence in the transfer of power. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang is visiting Botswana before heading to Tanzania later today. The Botswana visit includes a meeting with the country's foreign minister and a courtesy visit to the president. His trip coincides with the 46th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between both nations. Now, the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo has urged China to strengthen cooperation with his country by increasing trade and investment. President Felix Tshisekedi made the appeal while meeting Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang in the DRC capital Kinshasa on Wednesday. CGTN's Christo Chamringa has more details.
A gesture of friendship, China is the DRC's biggest trading partner. The two countries have enjoyed good trade relations for many years, and China is on a mission to build even stronger ties with the current government of President Tshisekedi.
We've signed this memorandum of understanding with the DRC to build roads, railways, and other projects. China is a friend of the DRC and Africa as a whole. We've signed agreements with 4 other African countries to improve their infrastructure. These deals are mutually beneficial to our countries.
The Chinese foreign minister expressed China's commitment to help the DRC improve its economy and the livelihood of the Congolese people. Mr. Wang Yi also promised to support the DRC with medical supplies to fight the COVID-19 pandemic.
This visit of Mr. Wang Yi is historic. It will help build stronger ties between our countries. In the past, we dealt with the European economies and hoped our economy would develop under globalization. But it's China that has really made the difference.
The Chinese foreign minister's tour of Africa is part of a tradition that China has held for the past 30 years. The DRC president hailed China for the support it has provided his country and said he will maintain the friendly relationship that they've had. The Chinese foreign minister, in turn, promised to help the DRC government to develop its economy and safeguard its national unity. Christo Chamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo.
And still in the Democratic Republic of Congo, at least 3 people have died after a boat sank on Lake Kivu. The boat was headed to the regional capital Goma at the time of the tragedy. A local official said the vessel was carrying 51 passengers on board. 46 were rescued and 2 were missing. Survivors estimate there were approximately 100 people being transported. Boat accidents are common in the DRC as a result of overloading passengers and cargo.
The boat was really overloaded. There were about 250 people without counting the children. There were those who were traveling with 2, 3, or 4 children. There were families moving to Kasunyi and others coming from a party in Luhihi. Like I was coming back from Luhihi. May God bless those who have rescued us for the great work they have done. We could all be dead were it not for the intervention.
Although the boat was overloaded, the problem was worsened by the waves because there was a strong wind. That's why it capsized.
We were 5 of us in the boat. My wife, my children are died. All the others are dead. I'm the only survivor.
You're watching Africa Live. Let's take a quick break. Coming up. Nigeria to get Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines by end of this month. And the EU approves Moderna COVID-19 vaccines.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
I've been Djibouti, Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia,
Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Ntah, an anchor for CGTN.
The United States has reported over 3,800 deaths. That is the biggest single-day death count from COVID-19 since the pandemic began. Rui Rattenberg reports.
It's the United States' highest daily count ever, beating out the previous record. This as new hospitalization records are set too. More than 130,000 people across the country now in hospital coronavirus care, as bed capacity dwindles even further. The vaccines, which are supposed to help contain these figures, are facing distribution logjams. This was the scene in North Carolina, now in Phase 1B of its rollout, vaccination for everyone over the age of 75. Most U.S. states are still working on long-term care facilities and healthcare workers, more than 3 weeks after the first shots were administered. This hospital in California started vaccinating anyone it could as quickly as possible, after a freezer storing its doses failed.
We all recognized that these vaccines needed to go into as many arms as possible with the goal of making sure there was no waste.
Meanwhile, U.S. health officials on Wednesday were playing down concerns of possible allergic reactions to the 2 vaccines approved for use. The Centers for Disease Control says it's rare and manageable. And the government's top infectious disease expert says this is no time to let down one's guard.
Until we get the overwhelming majority of people in the population, and I would imagine that would be about 70 to 85%, if we get them vaccinated, we'll get to a level of what we call herd immunity, which means that there'll be very little opportunity for the virus to circulate in the community. When that occurs, then you could pull back a bit on the public health measures.
Dr. Fauci this week said he's hopeful the U.S. can get to 1 million vaccines per day. Well, that would put it in line with President-elect Joe Biden's goal of 100 million vaccines in his first 100 days in office. But it's ambitious. So far, just about 5 million vaccines have been administered in the U.S. in just over 3 weeks. Rui Rattenberg, CGTN in Washington.
The Moderna coronavirus vaccine has been approved for use in the European Union. The approval comes as criticism mounts over the EU's start to its vaccination campaign. CGTN's Tony Waterman has more from Brussels.
The approval of the Moderna jab has doubled the options for vaccination in Europe after the Pfizer-BioNTech approval in December. So together, there is now access to 460 million doses. Not all at once because distribution will take place in phases, but enough to fully vaccinate half of the European population. Both the Moderna and the Pfizer-BioNTech require 2 injections. The problem has not been the number of vaccines. It has been the anemic rollout of immunization programs. The first jab jabs were given in Europe on December 26, and since then, only around 1 million people have received that initial jab. That's compared to 1.3 million in the UK and over 5 million in the United States. They, of course, have had a head start. For example, was approved by the FDA on December 18th, and this slower approach by the European Medicines Agency has come under heavy fire. In fact, the decision on Moderna was meant to happen next week, but that was brought forward because of pressure from EU governments. Now, EMA says that it's being more thorough than other regulators and that the COVID vaccine has to meet the same criteria as any other is in circulation in Europe, so that takes extra time. But obviously, questions are being raised as to whether this is the best approach, given that there is a third wave on the continent, thousands of people are dying, and a new variant, which appears to be more transmissible, is coming front and center. Now, others are also facing criticism for the glacial rollout of this vaccine. Less than 10,000 people in France have received the initial jab. As of Sunday, only 700 here in Belgium. Germany appears to be doing a bit better with more than 315,000 injections, but still far too slow for many people. Now, this is partially down to growing pains. It's partially down to overpromising by governments and partially down to logistical challenges. The Pfizer-BioNTech jab needs to be kept, for example, at extremely low temperatures. And as those kinks are worked out, there is every expectation that immunizations will accelerate in Europe. Tony Waterman, CGTN, Brussels.
Health authorities in Nigeria say the country expects to receive Pfizer and BioNTech COVID-19 vaccines by the end of January and begin inoculations immediately. The government plans to import more vaccines as it aims to inoculate 40% of the country's population this year. As CGTN's Digi Badmas reports, Nigeria is racing to curb a spike in COVID-19 infections amid a second wave of the pandemic.
The announcement of the imminent vaccine comes at a time when COVID-19 infections are rising rapidly in Nigeria.
The number of new cases per week has tripled. We were running at around 2,000 cases a week. We've now exceeded 6,000 cases a week. 3 weeks ago, if we take 100 samples, we get 4 positives. We are now getting 16 positives.
The importation of the vaccines has been seen as a timely move, given that the country is in the midst of battling a second wave of infections.
In the first phase, through the COVAX facility, we expect to receive approximately 100,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine by the end of January. A letter announcing this allocation is being expected from the COVAX facility this week. In the second phase, also through the COVAX facility, Nigeria is expected to secure free delivery of 42 million doses of vaccines, which will be a combination of all the available and approved vaccines currently in the market.
And authorities have already identified who should get the vaccine first.
Priority will be given to frontline health workers, first responders, strategic country leadership, and those that are elderly and with comorbidities.
But some medical experts say getting the vaccines into the country might just be the easy part.
We need to put systems in place to ensure that the health workers are adequately trained, because they need to protect themselves as well. And we also need to put systems in place to make sure that we adhere to the vaccine guidelines, because it's not every patient, it's not everyone that can be vaccinated. There are some contraindications and there are some allergies and things that we have to consider. So we have a lot of training and a lot of setting up SOPs, guidelines to put in place before we actually start before we roll out the vaccination program in Nigeria.
Authorities are also concerned that some people are hesitant to take the jab, with many conspiracy theories circulating in the country.
We already see a situation where there's evidence of resistance to the uptake of the vaccines even before they have arrived in the country. It is clear that we, as scientists, public health experts, and even the media, need to do more to educate people on the nature of the vaccines, how they work, and the steps we're taking to ensure that only safe potent and effective vaccines are delivered to Nigerians.
There's no doubt that plenty of work lies ahead to enlighten people about the COVID-19 vaccines and their importance. And the authorities hope their experience in successfully carrying out polio vaccinations in the past will help them achieve that target. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Ghana says it has not recorded any cases of a new COVID-19 variant recently found in South Africa. But some public health experts are worried that the new variant could reach the West African country. They are calling for the government to step up safety measures. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Health experts say the new variant of COVID-19 is more contagious than the original type. Although Ghana says it has not recorded any cases of the new variant, some experts have warned that it could be improper and incorrect to claim that the country does not have such infections. They say that's because Ghana's genomic surveillance of the coronavirus, which would detect the new strain, is poor compared to South Africa's capacity to find such cases. Since Ghana eased lockdown restrictions and opened its international airports, the government has enforced rapid testing of travelers. It hopes this measure will limit the chances of people bringing the coronavirus into the country, especially the new variant. But some experts have urged the government to do more, including quarantining travelers. The new variant of COVID-19 is set to spread very rapidly, and that's why health experts fear that Ghana could be more vulnerable now. That's because restrictions have been lifted, mass gatherings are taking place, and many people have also stopped wearing face masks. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has, however, encouraged citizens to strictly observe the COVID-19 safety measures to combat the pandemic. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
A reminder of one of our top stories at this hour. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang is visiting Botswana before heading to Tanzania later today. Wang's Botswana trip is in line with a decades-long diplomatic tradition. Since 1991, Chinese foreign ministers have visited Africa as their first overseas trip of the year. Mpoeng, an economist and trade and investment analyst based in Gaborone, brings us more on what this visit means for Botswana.
When you consider that Botswana and China have had a relationship for 46 years now, actually today is the anniversary of when the relations between Botswana and China started 46 years ago in 1975. It's a really important visit for Botswana because as it is, Botswana, China actually has an embassy in our capital, which is Gaborone. And we also have an embassy in Beijing. The two countries over the years have signed many bilateral agreements of understanding and even memoranda of understanding covering things as vast as social, economic, technical, and technological cooperation, even human resource development. It's also very important because, you know, in the year 2000, when China started the forum on China and Africa cooperation, Botswana was there and has attended all 7 conferences. And a large part of our relations are governed by that. We've had about 40 different China aid projects that cover infrastructure development, agriculture, education since that time. Actually, you know, to show the fact that the relationship is bilateral, Botswana itself donated $100,000 US to China in 2008 after the Sichuan earthquake. Since 2018, we've had, as I said, the president of Botswana was in Beijing, and he appealed for more relations between Botswana and China, and we've seen a lot of that bear fruit in the past 2 years. Speaking of COVID, we've, you know, as soon as, you know, the first sets of test kits and PPEs that Botswana had were donated from China, and we've been seeing that happen. We've also seen medical personnel that came in to come and assist in Botswana's efforts against COVID, who are coming in from China. Now, what we've also seen, though, which has been interesting, is we've also seen outside of the COVID relief, we've seen a lot more aid money come to Botswana. Just in the December, the Embassy of China was launching some street lighting, which they in Botswana, and we've seen 2 primary schools as well being built in Botswana in the past few years. So the visit is definitely very significant as the 2 countries find a way to grow their relationship, since there are so many opportunities and ways that the 2 countries can work together.
A teenage taekwondo enthusiast in Zimbabwe is using this sport to rally young girls and mothers against child marriage. Women's groups have warned that early marriages could be increasing as COVID-19 keeps children away from school. Joy Kiruki with the details.
17-year-old Natsiraishi Maritza is a taekwondo student. She has been a martial arts fan since the age of 5. She's using taekwondo to give girls in an impoverished community a fighting chance at life.
I do taekwondo, and with it I want to create an early marriage-free Africa. I want to help stop drug abuse, because most of the teenagers are getting involved into drugs, so I want to occupy them with taekwondo.
Natsiraishi's students line up outside her parents' home in the Epworth settlement. Some are as young as 4 and are now married. They follow her every instruction.
Since I was in primary school, most of my friends got impregnated and they got into marriages. And then when I went to high school, I realized that some of them now have kids and they're facing problems. These early marriages have led to gender-based violences, and they are still kids. They cannot look after a family, so they're being beaten, they're experiencing abuses, and this is really paining me.
In 2016, Zimbabwean law prohibited early marriage till the age of 18. Prior to that, legislation allowed girls to marry at 16. But according to the United Nations Children's Fund, 30% of girls in Zimbabwe are still being married off before reaching 18.
With the young ladies and the young girls, I'm going to talk to them about the challenges they're experiencing, and also I'm going to use my sport, taekwondo, to encourage them not to get into marriages and early pregnancies.
Natsiraishi is hoping to increase the confidence of her students through her association called Vulnerable Underaged People's Auditorium. A recent ban on public gatherings imposed by the government after a new COVID-19 surge has forced Natsiraishi to suspend the sessions. She's however hopeful they will resume training once the restriction is lifted. Joy Kiruki Juma, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. Coming up in business news. Nigeria's state oil firm seeks $1 billion to refurbish its largest refining complex. And the Central Bank of Egypt extends reduced banking charges as the country continues to fight COVID-19.
This has taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
There is more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than country to home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN, see the difference.
Nigeria's state oil firm NNPC is in talks with trading firms to refurbish its largest refining complex at Port Harcourt. The company is seeking to raise around $1 billion. If the financing is concluded, the long overdue rehabilitation of the refinery should reduce Nigeria's hefty fuel import bill. This would mark Nigeria's second oil-backed financing since the COVID-19 pandemic derailed investors as fuel demand dropped due to lockdowns. The money would be repaid over 7 years through deliveries of Nigerian crude and products from the refinery once the refurbishment is complete. Cairo-based Afrexim Bank is leading the financing. The Central Bank of Egypt has renewed a number of procedures it put in place at the onset of the COVID-19 outbreak. The CBE's decision includes extending the suspension of fees on cash withdrawals from ATMs and on banking transactions in Egyptian pounds until June 2021. The Apex Bank renewed the measures in September, which were expected to be lifted by the end of last year. CGTN's Yasser Hakim looks at the reaction to this decision from Cairo.
Cancelling banking fees and commissions on transactions are part of a series of financial packages by the Central Bank of Egypt introduced after the outbreak of the coronavirus in early 2020. The aim is to soften the negative effects of the pandemic on Egyptians.
The initiative serves several purposes. First, it reduces the possibility of long queues or crowds in banks because online banking and ATM are included. Waiving fees and commissions has cost banks a lot of money, but the overall benefit on the citizens and the market is more important at this stage.
With the second wave of COVID-19 hitting the country, the CBE decided to extend this initiative till July 2021.
The central bank has had a great stand during the crisis supporting the Egyptian people on many occasions, like cancelling the fees on transactions, and also when loan installments were postponed for 6 months on all clients. It was a good idea, optional and well received by people.
It is important and it shows that the government feels the suffering of the people and is working on it. And it's not just individuals, but businesses were also affected and are in need of such initiatives.
This is not the only decision taken by the Central Bank of Egypt. It has given more breathing room for companies and individuals in the ailing tourism sector as well.
The fiscal package has been extended by 6 months to several sectors, but a whole year for the tourism industry. It entails postponing installment payments on personal loans by a year, subsidizing the salaries for tourism employees, postponing loan payments for tourism companies, and a 3-year grace period on their dues.
Experts say these measures would help the strategic sectors survive the effects of the pandemic so that it can add value to the economy post-COVID-19. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
The Confederation of Libyan Businessmen in Tunisia has called for stronger cooperation with China in the rebuilding of Libya. The investors believe boosting economic ties between Beijing and Tripoli will have a positive impact on Libyan businesses and enterprises. Here's CGTN's Adnet Shawashi with more details.
Members of the Libyan-Tunisian Business Council invited Chinese companies to invest in Libya and to boost exports in order to promote economic development in the region.
Chinese companies have always worked in Libya. The unrest in our country has prevented some major investments. Now Libya and China can boost their cooperation, especially trade and other sectors, because China is advanced in all domains. China has the technology and the know-how. We invite Chinese enterprises to enter the Libyan market. China is welcome in Libya.
Libyan entrepreneurs added that China can play a central role in the reconstruction of infrastructure, which was damaged following 10 years of war and armed conflicts.
China is a great nation. I'm a strong supporter of China for over 20 years. China's first projects in Libya were successful. An increased Chinese presence will benefit Libya's economy. China deserves to have a big share in Libya's reconstruction. China is powerful and friendly. I'm proud of China's achievements.
Analysts noted that the Tunisian economy will benefit from the expansion of Chinese investment in Libya.
The whole economy and industry of border regions between Tunisia and Libya will grow because the market demands are huge. Tunisians are familiar with the Libyan market. The reconstruction effort requires string cooperation. A free trade area could be created to revive the regional economy.
In July 2018, China and Libya signed a memorandum of understanding on jointly building the Belt and Road during the 8th ministerial meeting of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum, which was held in Beijing. Tunisian economists assert that the successful experience of Chinese enterprises in Africa and the whole world paves the way for stronger presence in Libya. The launch of a new business dynamic with China and the reconstruction effort will revive the economies of the whole North African region as well as in Libya's neighbors. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
More and more plastic is being produced globally every year. Yet, despite efforts to promote sustainability, much of it goes to waste, clogging up waterways and damaging local environments. CGTN's John Bever spoke to a man in England who's asking people to spend a little time on the problem.
On every beach, in every part of the world, you'll find plastic. Either dropped or washed up, it's a global problem. Enter a man looking for a global solution, leading the fight against plastic at a local level. Martin Dorey started the 2-Minute Foundation.
Looks like seaweed.
Which urges people to spend 2 minutes of their time picking up plastic on beaches, parks, wherever they may be. And he's also hoping to change people's mindsets.
Maybe people will start to think about the plastic they consume, and we'll start to shop in a different way, and we'll start to consume in a different way, and we'll start to realise that we actually can't carry on as we are, that we have to slow down, we have to have some kind of circularity because we're running out of resources, and the natural environment can't cope with the waste we're putting into it.
The idea for the charity came to him 7 years ago, and cleaning one beach spread into a global initiative. There are hundreds of litter pickup stations and thousands of people involved. The scale of the problem is staggering. Every year more plastic is being produced globally, and much of it isn't disposed of properly or recycled. Recent surveys in the UK have found that for every mile of beach there are now on average 5,000 items of plastic waste. The coronavirus pandemic has seen masks, gloves and more food packaging used, but it's ever-shrinking microplastics that are an ever-growing problem. A sieve is the best tool when it comes to cleaning up what hasn't already been eaten by sea life. But rather than feel helpless, campaigners say consumers should feel empowered.
So I think the main message overall has to be reduce. We need to reduce our reliance on plastic, whether that's that we buy reusable masks that we wash and reuse, or whether it's that we buy food that isn't packaged. Make that choice. Make the choice between the bananas that are in a plastic bag and the bananas that are not in a plastic bag. Make that choice and just realise that every single thing that you put into your bin ends up in the environment some way.
With coronavirus vaccines becoming a reality and people thinking more about their own impact, the aim is to use considerably less plastic and tidy up the planet 2 minutes at a time. John Beaver, CGTN, Bude in southwest England.
The annual Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, gathers businesses and tech lovers in Las Vegas around this time of the year. The ongoing pandemic in the United States has prompted one of the world's biggest technology conferences to shift to an all-digital format that would have otherwise taken years.
More than 170,000 attended the four-day show in January 2020, before COVID-19 began to spread across the U.S. The event switched to a digital-only setting in 2021 is another blow for Las Vegas, which, like all other states, is dealing with the coronavirus outbreak and stay-at-home orders. CES organizers, the Consumer Technology Association, give a preview of what to expect from the downsized four-day event.
Been challenged, but we've also had opportunities. And the opportunity has been, as a world, we've moved to this digital transformation quicker and by several years we would have otherwise. We've been forced to adapt, and we have. And so with CES. We decided to make CES digital only in July because we wanted our customers to adopt quickly, and we saw the decision as an important one.
The digital venue, specially created by Microsoft, will let users message other attendees, schedule meetings, and watch hours of live hosted content and product demos. Shapiro says the CES online platform was a seven-figure investment with Microsoft. He also expects health technology and work-from-home gadgets to make center stage at this year's CES.
What we expect to see, of course, in addition to the great changes in mobility, the shift towards the electric car and self-driving, and other changes, we will see obviously a great focus on healthcare technology, but also a focus on broadband and things you can do for your home, not only for your home office to make it better, but also everything in your home that has to do with technology.
Registration fee for the virtual-only event is $499 from January 4th. CES Executive Vice President Karen Chapka defended the pricing, saying the event will provide ample business opportunities for participants.
We also know that there is over 100 hours of conference programming that you're going to be able to view. We also have all of our exhibitors putting on additional programming as part of the platform. And there's still the ability to connect over, over the 30 days beyond the show. So, quite frankly, there is a lot of business opportunity here that companies can take advantage of, attendees can take advantage of.
CES isn't the only tech event that's been interrupted by COVID-19. Its European counterpart, Germany's IFA, runs for 6 days and drew nearly 250,000 people in 2019. Last September, it ran in limited form for only 3 days, and there was no public access to the event. Trade shows are vital for networking, showcasing new technology and sealing deals. But the Events Industry Council says such shows are also big business, accounting for $2.5 trillion in global spending. The four-day Digital International Consumer Electronics Show begins on January 11th. Shen Li, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. We'll take a short break and be right back.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Peninah, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Over in Egypt, a Museum of Illusions has opened in Cairo, promising visitors a journey that will confuse one's senses. While the sights may be confusing, museum managers say behind each illusion is a fascinating scientific explanation, making it a learn as well. Wilkista Nyabwa reports.
The entrance is ordinary, a simple portal into a building. But the Cairo holds many visual delights. Visitors appear to walk under a swimming pool fully dressed without getting wet. They can also step into a tan ground sways under their feet or stand upside down in a rotating room. But this is all just pure illusion.
Honestly, this is a new experience. This is the first time to have something like this in Egypt. It is so young and old, but we'll have fun. Illusions are all things that I see for the first time.
The Cairo Museum of Illusion offers nearly 70 illusions that test visitors' senses, mind and psyche. But everything has its own scientific or psychological explanation. Museum managers say the goal is to discover why eyes perceive things that are incomprehensible to the brain.
This place was called a museum because there are more than 70 illusions here. They felt that the word museum explains the concept of someone who comes and learns new things about mathematics, science, and psychology as well.
You enter and you see things that are not real, but at the same time there is an explanation that makes you understand why you see things this way.
The illusions also include holograms and an infinity room. Visitors include groups of friends or families that wish to enjoy a new experience together. It is also Bulkisanyabo, CGTN.
Coming up in sports, we'll look back at Egypt's football achievements in 2020 and what to expect in the new year.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Africa Live. Find your voice.